Hi, my name is Melinda Ralph, and this is my temperature observation for the week of March 22nd to 28th. I'm located in North Fairbanks at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. My observation location is here in the upper MBS parking lot. The NWS location that I use for comparisons is the Fairbanks International Airport, which is only a few miles away from the college. My normal observation time was about 9 to 11 p.m. and I observed very few changes in wind, clouds, and precipitation. While the wind was gentle to maybe a 4 on the Beaufort scale, there was barely any clouds and no precipitation throughout this week. Here are my observations in the Excel spreadsheet for you all to see. On March 23rd at 11:10 p.m. I got a temperature of 24.6 and 24.7 degrees Fahrenheit. My pressure was 29.78 inches mercury, or 1008.46 millibars. You'll notice a difference in my max temperature for the left probe and for the right probe. This difference is because the left probe was in direct sunlight, whereas the right was in the shade. I figured that this would be a nice comparison of seeing solar heating and direct sunlight on temperature, where this is all air temperature. During the night, it dropped down quite low here in Fairbanks. The lowest was about 12 degrees on Monday night, and highest was 25 on Saturday night. I have no observation for March 26th, which is Thursday, due to scheduling issues. On Tuesday, March 24th, I conducted my observation at 10:56 p.m. and observed temperatures of 27.7 degrees Fahrenheit and 27.6 degrees Fahrenheit. The pressure that I observed was 29.62 inches mercury, or 1003.04 millibars. On Wednesday, March 25th at 9:40 p.m., I saw that my temperatures were 33.8 and my pressure was 29.25 inches mercury, or 990.51 millibars. Friday, March 27th, my observation was at 10:30, and I got the temperatures of 31.2 degrees Fahrenheit and 31.4 degrees Fahrenheit, with a pressure of 29.35 inches mercury, or 993.90 millibars. Saturday, March 28th, my observation was conducted at 10:57, and I observed the temperatures of 30.3 degrees Fahrenheit and 30.4 degrees Fahrenheit, with a pressure of 29.32 or 992.88 millibars. So this is my final observation sheet for March 28th, which is Saturday. And as you can see, I observed a Beaufort scale wind of Beaufort 3, and it was at 301 degrees east of north, or about 59 degrees west of north. Cloud cover was about 25%, and they were all cirrus clouds and just barely on the horizon. And here's my max and min history for the week. So unfortunately, my computer is unable to run the graphs due to an Excel issue. So I'm running these sheets out of Google Sheets. And while it doesn't show the temperature graphs and the pressure graph and the relative humidity graph, I was able to look at them on a separate computer with my data and saw that my current temperatures were all pretty much along the same lines as the NWS temperatures recorded for those times. And my minimum temperatures were along the were along the same lines as the NWS minimum temperatures were. However, my max, which you can actually see all the way up here, was just a little bit higher than the NWS reported, which could have been for the difference in position. University of Fairbanks is located on a hill, which puts a good portion of the university in direct sunlight, whereas the airport is lower on the ground and can be a bit colder at times due to its relativity to the sun, I think. So my max temperatures were a little bit higher than the NWS, but generally along the same lines. So these are the weather maps for the week, and I will go through them and talk about them. On Monday, March 23rd, we saw a high-pressure system here in central Alaska, and high-pressure systems in Siberia and in the northern Alaska, with low-pressure systems moving in through Canada and the northwestern part of Washington, and just below the Aleutians here in the Pacific. Fairbanks saw higher pressure here earlier in the week, and pressure fell as the week went on. Temperature stayed relatively normal throughout, and we didn't see all that much precipitation. We didn't see any precipitation in Fairbanks during that week, and we saw barely a little bit of clouds. As you can see, the cloud cover seems to just barely miss Fairbanks and moves around it is kind of forming around it on March 23rd. On Tuesday, March 24th, the high-pressure systems had moved into Canada, and the low-pressure system underneath Alaska didn't really move all that much. Pressure stayed slightly normal. It was 1019 millibars around here on Monday, and it's just barely a little bit over, or just barely under, on Tuesday. On Wednesday, which is the day we will be discussing on the later in the screencast, we saw a cold front kind of go over the interior of Alaska, followed and preceded by two warm fronts. Here we can see what Dr. Collins pointed out was a low pressure system and a cyclone in the North Pacific. We can see that forming right here underneath the Alaska interior. I did kind of watch the system go through and saw it kind of come up near Alaska and then leave again. So we did miss seeing that up in Fairbanks. I didn't make any observations on Thursday, but this was the day with the most cloud cover. You can see most of Alaska is completely obscured by clouds, and the low pressure system barely moves in up here into central Alaska, not central Alaska, southern Alaska, and is over through the Aleutians right here. And you can kind of see that comma shape we went over in class, kind of forming right over here. And our high pressure systems have moved. The high pressure systems that we observed in Canada on Monday and Tuesday have moved on, and now there are low pressure systems pretty much surrounding the area. On Friday, March 27th, we saw that low pressure system kind of start moving south. You can kind of see the top of that comma shape of the cyclone right here. And we have some clouds right here in the interior of Alaska, and you can see a few splotches where sunlight would have gone through, but for the most part there's a good cover of clouds on Friday, March 27th. And you can see another high pressure system over here in Canada and over here in the North Pacific. Saturday, March 28th was the last day of observation for me, and you can see that low pressure system kind of moved down, and then maybe this is another one that moved into Alaska. So this one's kind of starting to come through and rush, and you can see that, that movement here and the combining of the warm and cold fronts. There was a lot of precipitation throughout most of Alaska, but in Fairbanks we didn't see almost any of it. So here are the weather maps for Wednesday, March 25th. And you can see that low pressure system I talked about earlier, the comma shape right here with the cold fronts and the warm fronts just barely over Fairbanks. And you can see in the visible and the water vapor that comma I was talking about and that we went over, that we had in the book discussions. And that seems to be a system that moved, I think it moved out and then another one moved back in later in the week. So other than that, there's nothing unusual that I observed in Fairbanks. We didn't really have too much weather change during this week. However, we did see clouds on the horizon, most of them cirrus. Occasionally, a few, I think it's altostratus. However, we constantly see sundogs up here at the university. I work at the museum, and I've been walking along Westridge and seen sundogs nearly every day, so that's actually a very cool thing to see after taking this class, is to see the sundogs. And it was actually, I think, a week where another school was on spring break and there were a lot of people and they were taking pictures of those sundogs. Other than that, nothing unusual in Fairbanks. That is the week of March 22nd to 28th. Thank you.